What's going on, workforce? And today we've got a whole lot of Stormblood information coming off of Live Letter 35. So let's just do this thing. So Live Letter 35 included two parts, and at the break in between they were highlighting some just, pictures and video that they captured from all the various fan fests. It was really quite entertaining. The big key moment though was the benchmark. They showed it off, and within it there's tons of new information. So you have like new abilities being shown off, like the ninja's frog ability, like the scholar's channeling with a fairy ability, the Dark Knight's shielding this person ability. So we're going to dive into that most likely in its own specific video because there's just too much to cover in one video alone. This would end up being the longest video I've ever made. So in order to keep it short, we're going to segment this up. So we're going to be talking about the key information with the live letter, and then ideally in the background, if I'm doing it right, you're going to see the video of the benchmark playing kind of in repeat depending on how long this video is. Now, all that being said is that we're going to do a deep dive into the benchmark video later. But it's important to note that at this moment, you can actually go download the benchmark for yourself. So they said, at the live letter that within an hour or whatever, it would be released. Now, they did troll us for a little bit, but we're going to just focus in on the highlights with the information and my thoughts about what they shared just in the live letter. More focusing on the second half rather than the first half, but there was some good information that I wanted to share with you guys just in the first half. So let's go ahead and just dive into this thing and really cover the nitty-gritty detail. So in the first half they talked a lot about lore, and I was planning on spending some time on it in this video, but probably going to spend more time on it in its specific video in and of itself. That's where it began. I would say that the live letter actually began rather slowly, but then really picked it up in the second half. But here's a couple cool questions that I want to share with you guys directly. So what's important to note is that the new AF gear, which will be level 70 job specific gear, is actually going to be obtained through the job quest this time. It's not going to be connected to tomestones. They felt like that necessarily didn't work out too well for the first time, so they're going to move that gear into that area, which should help with that gear gap, especially when hitting level cap. So all in all, they showed off like the Dragoon, the Bard, the Scholar, multiple jobs, and they look really cool for their AF3 or 4 or whatever we're calling it nowadays. They're going to implement a way that you can exchange, I guess, older tomes to be able to acquire some of the newer tomes. So there was tease that the Poetics would be able to be turned in for some whatever the new tomes might be, so don't throw those away. At the same time, the Poetics aren't going away because they are part of that ARR currency. So this actually is a really cool idea because it should incentivize that older content from still being relevant. Like, hey, I'm going to get this, and then there's a, obviously probably an exchange rate, most likely a smaller form of it. But if you're not really interested in Poetics, you can still look like you can trade up. And that's going to be really exciting to see. And I'm wondering if they'll do that with Stormblood as well, with the scripture when that removes its weekly cap. That's for battle, but for crafters, they've always kind of had the blue and the red scripts. So in this case, they're introducing yellow scripts. No real more detail about that, but it is what it is. It is interesting to see that they're going to introduce a new type of currency, and it seems like they're going to be removing the weekly restriction that they currently have in place. So we'll have to wait and see how that fully plays out, but it's really cool to see that crafters and gatherers are going to be getting a little bit more love in 4.0. They talked a lot about traveling and maps. So ground mounts will be able to have more versions of speed. One that will be unlocked for the various areas like in 3.0, but that also requires you finishing the 3.0 content. So for those of you who already have, you're ready to go for 3.0 areas, but you'll have to unlock their next level of speed in 4.0 somehow. And then there's apparently another way that you can upgrade their speed even more, but he didn't talk about what that was. So it seems like there's going to be some kind of secrets for us to discover and find, and I'm okay with that. I think that's a great idea, and I really can't wait to see these ground mounts who can't fly get faster. So ground mounts also will not be able to travel underwater. Only mounts that can fly will be able to. So if you can fly, you can swim, and they're going to ideally keep transferring more mounts into that flying category. So they did say that Sleipnir is going to become a flying mount, which is fair because people have spent a lot of money to acquire that mount. So it seems kind of weird that you could be like, hey, here's this great mount, and you can't use it. So squadron updates are coming, but they're not going to be coming with 4.0. They're going to be coming with 4.1. We kind of knew this, so we should be able to venture in dungeons with our squadron sometime around the 4.1 area. They gave some reasons talking about AI, but with everything they're building, it just seems to make natural sense that we're going to get a lot of content, and that should be something that'll be interesting and exciting for 4.1. So with the benchmark being played, like I said, they showed off new abilities, they showed off the Samurai level 3 limit break, and it's just so cool to see these areas and see these fly-throughs. I cannot wait to download this myself and run through it with you guys. So that's going to happen later today, but let's go ahead and talk about all the other information they revealed about Stormblood. So they're going to be making adjustments to the Chaos data center. So this is going to look more like adding 2 additional servers to that pool of servers, which is great. The game's growing, more and more people are joining, so it's always a positive side to see within an MMO that we're getting new servers. And then they, so as to what other adjustments and things like that, I wasn't too clear on in the translation, so we'll just see with various news posts about that later. They showed off the inventory size adjustment. From the looks of it, it looks like we're getting 10 additional slots per area in the armory chest. At least that was my interpretation, which would take us from 25 to 35 for each of that. That's a huge multiplication. And then in our player's inventory, we're going to be getting an additional 40 slots. So that gives us 140 slots on our character and quite a lot more space in our armory chest. Now, what they said is like, this is phase 1. They're going to do this. They're going to see how the servers respond. This had nothing to do with PS3. They said it was all about the data size and the server architecture. So with that, they're going to see how stable this is. And then if it's stable and the servers are responding well and there's not a negative impact, to the game, then they're going to go to phase 2, in which we're going to see more expansion come at that point. Now, as to what size and what that means, I don't know. But I think honestly that this is a good first step. I know I'm going to personally really enjoy this space, but is it enough? We really can't tell for sure, but I'd like to know what you guys think. Is this enough? And then in the macro world, we're going to keep our 100 slots for macros, but we're going to have 100 shared that's going to be cross character. Now, this is great and all, especially as I'm starting to run out of space on my macros, but the real issue that I find is like, I really still want to share my macros with you and with others. They really need to give us a way to be able to share macros inside the game without having to copy and paste it, etc. This would be a huge benefit for PS4 players and players who really don't primarily use a keyboard. That way I can be like, hey, I typed this up for you, here you go, and they can accept it. That's what I want to see with macros, but I'm excited to see that we're getting more and that it's shared across character. Now, if we could only share it across Free Company, Link Shell, trade it on the markets, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of options that we could go, and hopefully we're going to get some traction in those areas. I know I'm going to keep ringing that bell. But, 100 additional slots, which I think I'll probably end up taking well advantage of in 4.0. So retainers are going to get to level 70. That's, I think, pretty obvious, and you'll also be able to set them as the new jobs, Red Mage or Samurai, much like we were able to do at 3.0 as well. So this will be great to see on our retainer adventures. I still kind of wish the squadrons and the retainer system was still somewhat interjoined, because it would be cool to be able to gear them up and go and adventure with them, but who knows? We haven't really seen what the squadron system is going to evolve into with the AI. So there's always hope, or whatever. So new items for the gold saucer, but they're not really going to be changing how the systems work and the rates in which that we acquire MGP. But it is what it is. Mini games, more rewards, always a good thing. No new Chocobo ranks that they're planned, so you can only get to a maximum rank of Chocobo 20 or whatever. And all this kind of relates in my mind to the thing I think is like, when we talk about the squadrons, when we talk about all these things, what is the Chocobo companion system? It's this pet that we can summon on some kind of interval, and that's pretty much it. Sometimes it always feels like maybe there was bigger plans for it, or maybe this is all that it was meant to be. I'm glad they made it a pet, and so that we can have and battle with our Chocobos out in the wild, but I just feel like there's more out there that I would like the system to be, and it just doesn't seem like that's going to happen. It sounds like the squadron system is going to be overtaking it in terms of design, which for me sounds better, because I'd rather be able to give them jobs. I'd rather be able to give them AI and Gambit-like AI. That's my hope, and because that's what Yoshi P actually talked about with 3.0 at FanFest for Heaven's Word, saying that we're going to get more battle companion mounts. I don't know if that idea is gone or if it's still going to be coming around, but he talked about the Gambit system at that point. So I'm holding out hope that the squadron system is going to use Gambits, but I don't see much in the way of changing for the Chocobo companion system. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Does it need to continue? Should there be new ranks? A new Matera tier. They called it High Matera. Don't know if that translates to grade 6. But whatever, grade 5 Matera is going to become more readily available, which makes sense because grade 6 is going to be that premier tier. But I like the name High Matera. They did say that with it, only one forbidden meld will be allowed with that grade 6 or that high Matera. So there is going to be some restrictions on the Matera itself rather than the gear itself, but I find that particularly fascinating and interesting, and I could see people burning through millions and millions and millions of gil trying to get that one grade 6 into forbidden and then trying to add those grade 5s at that point. So also no new options for character creation at the time of 4.0, but they'll probably be introduced some more down the line. This question was specifically targeting like facial designs and tattoos and paints and things of that nature, and they said right now it is what it is. New hairstyles and other ways that we can customize our character will be coming later, but at this time no plans, but it could happen in the future. So it's not completely out of left field, but it's just not planned for the launch of 4.0. So we're also not going to be getting new slots for teleportation favorites. Now this is quite fascinating because we're going to have way more teleports to be able to go to. They did say they are capping teleporting, especially over to Doma and other areas, at 9,900 gil. So pretty much just right under 1,000. That's going to be the maximum cost of teleportation. I think that's quite fascinating. And in that same vein, because of where Doma is so far located, they asked, the question was, is there a time difference between Doma and Eorzea? And essentially they said yes, lore-wise, but if you think of the in-game clock, whenever you teleport, it's always going to be adjusting to local time. So you're not really going to feel it. It's not going to necessarily affect you too much, but lore-wise, you are going to be in a different time zone just due to the nature and the space between these two continents. They showed some images of Shirogane again, and the inside and the outside of the houses, and some of the furniture, and even sushi that's going to be in-game as a decoration. And who knows, maybe this will also mean more sushi, or I remember sushi from 11 being very, very powerful and very well sought after, and that's kind of what made Culinarian, the chef in that game, so powerful, because they were able to make that type of food because it was so highly coveted. So then they talked about the phone app, and then this was announced a while back, and they said they're going to try to target it for sometime after the release of 4.0. They say it's still coming. They've finished the chat and the in-game chat feature with the phone app, and they're working on retainer and markets and all of those additional features to really bring value to the application itself. They think that it should be out sometime by the end of this year, or if nothing else, early 2018. That was a nice little update. I wasn't expecting it for 4.0, but I'm glad they talked about it. So they did a gear design contest, and they kind of showed off the winners. And so they're saying that with 4.0, that gear is actually going to be a part of the weekly Tombstone lockout. So we're going to be able to acquire that, and it's going to be some of the most sought after gear. I believe that's actually coming with 4.0, which is exciting because some of the gear designs looked really epic. And I think for those who spent the time and actually were able to submit and get accepted, it's going to be really exciting for them to be able to acquire their own gear in game. And I think that just really speaks to both the love and the talent that's located in the community. So congratulations to all the winners. I cannot wait to collect your gear. Yoshi P said they're going to be adding new features to the Fates, but it's really hard to describe without them talking about it. He did say there's going to be bonuses and there's things that you can do to be able to reward XP bonuses. No mention of when you don't need XP, if there was a system that they're going to put in place. It's one of the things we talked about on this channel. But we'll have to wait and see, and hopefully he'll be able to show that off here soon enough. So the rollout for Omega is going to be something where 2 weeks after the release of Stormblood, you're going to see Omega normal mode drop, and then Savage mode is going to be 2 weeks after that. So we'll see the release of Savage Omega 4 weeks after the release of Stormblood, which coincides with the same schedule that they've had in the past. This should allow everybody to really level up their jobs, play around with the new jobs, learn the new skills, and get familiar with it before jumping into the raids. It's been a long time coming. They said that getting the Ulda market boards has always been difficult, so they're going to be adding a new Aetheryte crystal there, so that way we can be able to teleport using the Aethernet. This is an important change, and I'm really excited and looking forward to it. I know a lot of people are, because right now you have to go to the Adventurers Guild, and then you have to zone in, or you have to go to one of the other locations and run to it yourself. It's so much easier and quicker to get to it via the other cities that this is a really good change. So just a couple quick notes. There's obviously going to be a lot more minions that are going to be in place. They said to release at least 20. Samurai is going to also have more armored gear sets that they can equip, so that's going to be exciting, and I can't wait to see those shown off as well. And that item level and acquisition of gear is going to work a lot like it did in 3.0, where you're going to get it from quests and dungeons. However, they are adjusting the dungeons so that, just like with the raids, it's going to look at people in the party, and it's going to at least drop something for somebody in that party that they are going to either want, or it's going to be beneficial to them, or I'm assuming that if everybody's at level cap, it's going to at least drop something for somebody in a role in that party. So I think that might be a really interesting adjustment to see. It's going to be great to see how it played out in practice, especially with 4 people. But I don't know, I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Is this going to be a great change for the dungeons? And they're going to also be doing a patch note reading from E3, just like they did with Heaven's Word this year in Stormblood. Yoshi P said that he would rather be playing, but he's going to be spending time in America at E3 reading a lot of notes. So there's going to be a lot of patch notes in play. Now, all that being said, they're going to be doing another live letter around May 8th in Germany. Now, what this is going to show off, this is where I think they're going to dive more into the battle system changes that they've been teasing and that everybody's so hungry and passionate for. It's not that far away. We're really going to be getting that information, and here we go. We are kicking it into high gear. New Stormblood information is going to be dropping very consistently, and it's going to be exciting. So, I'm going to go see if that benchmark is ready to download and dive into it myself and see how my computer is going to run it. And we're going to talk about it more as we go forward here on the channel. So let me know in the comments below if there's any questions you have, or if there's anything you'd like me to talk about in more detail about this live letter or about Stormblood in general. Thanks so much for watching this video. Hit that like button if you don't mind. And if you don't like this button, I think here the other one works as well. But again, I hope to see you in my next video. For Work to Game, my name's Brian. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you in my next. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care.
Thanks for watching. YouTube has a pretty cool video waiting for you over here. Our latest vlog is down below. For those of you new, subscribe is over here. And all of our other contact info is just right below me here. Thanks for watching.